is Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. A talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Dr. Monif M. Matouk. Now we're going to be discussing his amazing novel, Sons of Abraham. Available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a whole host of other places. But if you want to gather everything that Dr. Matouk has in store, do yourself a favor. Head on over to his personal website, and that's drmonifmatouk.com. There, you're going to find more information on him, more information on this impressive book, hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. I'm telling you, people, it truly is a one-stop shop. That's Dr., the abbreviation, DrMonifMatouk.com. And I quickly want to point out the fact that Dr. Matouk was brought to our network by one of the best publishing firms in the business. People, you already know, I'm talking about City of Books. So for my writers out there who have gone through their process, creating their masterpiece, and now you've done it, man, you've created that book, but you need help moving it. Well, you got to contact one of the best movers in the business. And of course, that's City of Books. Head on over to cityofbooks.com today and gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. And people, listen, it is an absolute pleasure, a true honor to have Dr. Matouk here on the line. His book, Sons of Abraham, is one that you're not going to want to put down. Okay, this book is a gripping read. Not only is it going to be entertaining, but it is going to have you analyzing so many aspects of life, of your life and the life happening around you. See, because this book is set in a world torn apart by division. It tells the unforgettable story of a Lebanese Muslim man and a Christian woman whose love defies religious strife, geopolitical conflict, and the weight of history. And trust me when I tell you, I mean that. This is a book that is set against the backdrop of the Israeli Palestinian conflict, the Syrian civil war, and the novel explores the courage it takes to question faith, confront identity, and fight for love in the face of otherwise seemingly insurmountable odds. I was talking to Dr. Matouk here on the pre-screening call prior to the interview. And even though this is a novel, it's a fictional story that has been created, given what we have happening around the world, you can't help but analyze where we currently are as a society. And I don't mean as a society here in the States. I mean a global society. I'm talking about our human family, because people, trust me when I tell you, man, listen, there may be a lot of differences. There may be a number of things that separate us, but I promise you there's even more that connects us. And he was talking about throughout the history of humanity, how hatred is natural, but hatred needs to be met with love. And when he said that, it really struck a chord, man. It really was something that I, first and foremost, wholeheartedly believe in. But I also feel like that is a notion that unfortunately gets overlooked a number of times. And trust me, man, it is not nearly as simple as I am making it right now. There are a lot of nuances. There are a lot of intricacies when it comes to war, when it comes to the division that we see around the world and that we experience. And I dream of a time where things can be that simple, where it is just focusing on the love and the connectivity that we have amongst all of us. But this book is the precipice to so many deep conversations. It is much more than an entertaining read, but I promise you that it is an entertaining read, man. Sit back and strap in. Have your notebooks ready. Dr. Matouk is going to take us back to the classroom. We're going to receive some fantastic pieces of information. But once we've concluded, understand the journey has just begun, and there is a lot more still to be had. So let's jump right in. Dr. Matouk, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you very much, Benji. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to be talking to you. And I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Listen, it is a pleasure to have you here, man. I admire what you've done by comprising this book, because it's something that, like I mentioned, has the entertainment value, but it carries a lot of weight, and it is something that is going to lead to a lot of discussions, and hopefully very beneficial discussions. So I admire the work you've done, and I truly appreciate you being here with us to discuss it. First and foremost, let's start off at the ground floor by learning a little bit more about yourself. Tell us more about your background.
Well, I'm a physician, a surgeon, and I am mostly involved in what we call wound care and limb salvage. Mm-hmm. So that's my professional side. That's how I make my living. But in addition to that, I am an ordained minister. I have served Christ and served the church for about 35 years. Mm. And about 10 years ago or so, I retired as a minister. But I still, of course, I am still in the service of my Lord and Savior and in the service of others. So I have done a lot of things in life. Started out as an illegal immigrant. I came to this country when I was about 13 and a half years old. I came by myself, actually. I had a brother living in here that I basically did not really meet. He left the country when I was about 2.5 years old, and he came over to the United States to start a better life for himself. So I came over here, and I lived with him for a few years, for about 3 years. And then I decided to go out on my own and just meet the world, basically, take the world head on. And I ended up dropping out of high school, a full-time job, and earn my living, which I did. And, so I was a high school dropout. I worked at just about everything you can imagine. I stocked groceries. I delivered groceries. I worked as a taxi cab driver. I worked as delivering pizza. I worked as a meat cutter. So whatever job I could find, till I met my beautiful and wonderful wife, Nadra. I was 19 years old at that time. We fell in love, and we got married. Both were about 19 years of age. And she's the one who encouraged me to go back to school. Mm-hmm. She said, there's a lot more to you than just, working and earning a living. You need to go back to school. And of course, I followed her advice, and thank God for her. She's been the light in my life. And I went back. I got my GED certificate, then went back to college, and always worked at least one full-time job while going to college, sometimes a full-time and a part-time job, and took, courses in college. Slowly but surely, I was able to finish my undergrad at DePaul University in biological sciences. Then I went to Rosalind Franklin University in Chicago, finished my doctorate in pediatric medicine, and then I did my residency in Cook County Hospital. At that time, it was called Cook County Hospital, very well-known hospital, and at St. Mary and Elizabeth Centers in Chicago as well. And that started me on my professional career in medicine. However, my spiritual journey started when I was about 14 years of age, when war basically started in the Middle East. And one of my brothers was involved in that war. He was wounded in Lebanon in 1982 and almost died. He had a shrapnel hit him in his side and his kidney, and he was in the snow, basically lying down in the snow for about 3 days. And thank God he was found by some other soldiers, and he is recovered. I am originally from Syria. I was born from Syria. I was born in Syria. And this happened when Israel basically went into southern Lebanon, and a war basically erupted. So I started praying for my brother. But at that time I was praying, I didn't know who I was praying for, because I really have never thought about God before that time. And as I started thinking about God and thinking about what I'm doing, who am I praying to? Am I just, hoping that there's someone up there that is hearing me and going to answer me? Do I have any faith that there is someone up there? And then I started thinking about, creation versus evolution. Were we born? Were we just, did we just evolve into human beings? Were we created? Is there something special about us more than there's just this body that eats and drinks and lives? Is there something a lot deeper to human beings than just the body? Is there a soul? Is there a spirit?
Mm-hmm.
I was very young when I started thinking about that, but that actually took over my life when I was about 14 years old, and for about 6 months, I was agonizing actually with about these questions. And one day I just knelt down and I prayed, and I said, God, if you really are there, if you truly do exist, I want to know you. I want to know what your responsibilities towards me are as a creator. Because if you're my creator, you're responsible for me. And if you're my creator, I have duties towards you because you gave me life. And I have to know what I have to do. How can I connect with you? And that was a very sincere question. And I said, I don't know if I'm just speaking out in the air or if someone's listening. But if you are listening, God, I would like an answer. And it was just a very sincere question. Mm-hmm. And I went to sleep. And next day I woke up. And it was like I woke up to a whole new world. Everything I saw, everything I touched had a new meaning to me. It was a very cloudy day in Chicago. And it was the fall. And there were no leaves on the trees. And there were some birds singing. But I woke up and I felt this presence, this really, really powerful presence around me. And I just touched myself. I felt different. My hands felt different. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's very difficult to explain. It's like I heard the birds for the first time. And I started just looking at everything, this wonderful, amazing creation. Even in a fall day, it looked amazing to me. And I just recognized that this was the presence of God around me. And that's what started me on my spiritual journey, which was a difficult journey because when you realize there's a God, you realize there's going to be a reckoning. You realize there's someone who's watching you, who knows what you're doing, who knows your every thought and action. And that brought on a new set of agonizing questions to me because now I believe that there's a God and there's this God that's watching over me. Well, what do I do now? And so that was the second step in my journey of faith is starting to know God. And that made me feel, in a way, very scared and at the same time very assured. Yeah. Assured that there's someone watching out for me, but scared that I have to answer to that someone. And so that's how my spiritual journey started. And, it was agonizing, as I said, because I was looking for redemption, because I knew that within me there are things that are no good. And that's part of what I explore in this book. I explore human nature in this book, especially the hatred and the love, both these opposites. We are filled with opposites. We love, we hate, we rejoice, we cry. We laugh, we cry, we rejoice, we mourn. And life is absolutely full of opposites. And that can be sometimes, very troubling for most people. It was definitely troubling for me at that age.
Yeah.
So what really helped me a lot is a lady came to our house and, gave us a Bible. And I started reading. I started with the Gospel of Matthew, the first book in the New Testament. And when I started reading it, the first few pages were, about, the family tree, basically, of Jesus. And that was very boring to me. And so I put it aside. And then after a week, something drew me back to it. And I went back and started reading. And when I got to the Sermon on the Mount, it just was unbelievable. This is something I have never, ever heard before. I've never heard anyone speak like that. Never heard anyone speak about love the way Jesus did. Never heard about, the love of God, that it was so impressive and so abounding. And I was just so drawn to Jesus through the Sermon on the Mount, and I kept on reading and reading. I couldn't put the Bible down after that, and I just, surrendered my life to Christ at that time. I was about 14 and a half years of age, actually, when that happened. I was way before I even met my wife. Mm-hmm. And then I just continued to read more and grow spiritually, and eventually I became an assistant pastor and then a pastor of a church, and I attained my ministerial credentials through the Assemblies of God Church and later on the Church of God. And I served Christ for about 35 years with my wife. We have planted several congregations in the city of Chicago, Arabic-speaking congregations, and we continue to serve him in different ways. So that's a little bit about my background.
Dr. Matouk, thank you very much. And listen, man, what an impressive background it is. My goodness. I'm telling you, we could not have selected a more perfect embodiment of a person of distinction to be with us here. My goodness. Dr. Matouk, I want to go now to this next question. And listen, it is a broad one, and it is very complex. But I do think that it really gets to the heart of your book and a lot of what you just said in terms of your journey. You were talking about questions that you were analyzing and focusing on within yourself, but also that you wanted to articulate in this book when you're talking about the juxtaposition of hatred and versus love. And I don't think it is by happenstance that your two main characters come from completely different cultural and religious backgrounds. Now let's analyze this for a second, because from a micro perspective, we're talking about these two individuals in their journey. But from a macro perspective, there is a lot that can be said about society in general in being viewed through this lens. So what are you wanting to articulate when you were recognizing two individuals from completely different backgrounds who are working to come together and find a relationship amongst themselves?
Well, one of the most important things is that we are all alike.
Yeah.
What makes people hate each other sometimes, or most of the time, is the fear of the different person, is the fear of what the other person thinks like or feels like or how they live their lives. And this fear and this lack of communication sometimes with the other person, knowing what they are like, causes us to either be afraid of them and eventually start to hate them. Because when you're afraid of a person or of a thing, whatever it is, fear causes you to develop hatred for that, whatever you fear, for that person or that thing that you fear. And what my understanding here is that all people, no matter where they come from, no matter what religion, no matter what social background, rich or poor, whether they come from what race they come, black or white, mm-hmm. or, European or Middle Eastern or whatever it is, human beings essentially are exactly the same. They hate and love. They are sad. They are happy. They aspire for the same things: better life, liberty, freedom, success. And they fear failure. They fear pain. They fear sickness. They love their children. They want their children to be great. They want to have children and go on and progress in life. They want to live eternally if they can. It's exactly the same no matter who you look at. Yeah. The aspirations are the same. The fears are the same. So why do we have so many wars? Why do we have people killing each other all over the world? Mm-hmm. And I think if we come to understand that we are essentially exactly the same as far as our nature is concerned, we are capable of so many amazing and great things. Human beings are capable of the most amazing things. Look at us. We've gone to the bottoms of the oceans. We've gone to the stars. We've built skyscrapers. We can unravel the DNA of the human being, of all animals. We can actually clone animals now, and the depth of knowledge that we have attained is so amazing.
Yeah.
The things that we have built are so amazing. The things that we have done are so amazing. Yet you look at the Holocaust, you look at World War I and World War II, you look at the the wars that have happened and have been happening for thousands and thousands of years. You look today at the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine. We are capable of so many horrendous and horrible and evil and bad things as well. And so it's such a confusing thing about humans, is we are capable of so much, both bad and good. How do we resolve this issue, or is it an issue that can be resolved? I don't think human nature can be changed, but I think that we as individuals can decide, make an active decision, a conscious decision, that we want the good in us to overcome the bad. We want the bad in us to diminish and to vanish, and we want the good in us to grow and prosper. And I think that is a personal decision that each human being has to make. And our actions depend on that decision.
Listen, and that's the thing, Dr. Matouk. I think this is a much larger conversation than just you and I are going to have. This is a much larger conversation than what the journey that your characters embark upon. But I think that what's so important about it is a conversation is being had. And I think we've gotten to a point now in society where things are so divisive. We are so divided, more so than ever before. At least that's how it appears. You watch these mainstream propaganda machines, and listen, people, I'm not here to say right or left. It doesn't matter, because I promise you, whether you're conservative, you're Democrat, whatever side you're leaning on, that is a propaganda machine that is meant to spread that particular side of things. So as difficult as it may be, we have to see through the facade and try to culminate everything. As ugly as it may appear, we don't move forward unless we have real conversations. And
absolutely true.
Dr. Matouk, this is why I love your book, man, because I think it's going to force a lot of people to have those tough conversations. And this is going to lead into my next question, and as we begin closing out, but
I'm sorry, if I may interject, just give you an idea, just to catch up on what you were saying. That's exactly what I do in this book. I try to explore the different ideas that I want the reader to look at and explore themselves. Mm-hmm. I explore that through the different characters in the book, where I have them debating each other and talking to each other. And through these conversations, I'm trying to project my ideas to the reader.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you added that in, because it ties into my follow-up question that I want to go into. Because listen, my background is in filmmaking. And I create stories for a living, right? And it's something that I've always loved to do. I love being in my imagination. But I also find that art is something that is magnificent in what it can represent in such a way where you can portray a quote unquote reality that is very close to what we actually see. But because we are now viewing it from an outside perspective, it can sometimes make it a little bit easier to digest in a sense, right? So my follow-up question now for you is, and I think I know the answer, but I'm still going to pose it. Do you think that fiction can play a role in humanizing people affected really by war in general? Because this is much larger. I know we're talking about, the characters are set in a world where we're examining the war between Israel and Palestine and Syria. But it goes larger than that. As you mentioned before, we talk about World War I, World War II. We look at the atrocities throughout human history. How do you think fiction can play a role in humanizing the people involved in those and create fruitful conversations?
Well, first of all, the word is mightier than the sword. So absolutely, history has always been shaped and changed by the words of men, by the words we say as individuals or as leaders, but mostly by writers. Writers have shaped our world today, and more than anyone else. It's books that change history. It's books that change the world.
Yeah.
And what I explore actually in this novel is not just the war that's happening, because this has been a war that's been going on for literally hundreds and hundreds of years. So I do explore the history of the war in the Middle East and the different root causes, but I also the relationships between the three major religions in the Middle East, basically Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, and this constantly changing relationship between them, both the animosity between them and the differences and animosities, but also the similarities and the beliefs that can bind them together and does bind them together. The name of the book is Sons of Abraham for a reason.
Yeah.
Jews claim Abraham as their father through Isaac. They are his descendants. Arabs and Muslims claim Abraham as their father through Ismail, who's also, they are his descendants. And Christians claim Abraham as their father through faith in Jesus Christ, because Abraham is the father of faith. And if they all connect themselves to Abraham, then they are all brothers. And if they are brothers, why have they been killing each other for hundreds and hundreds of years and still do so? And I think that's really what I'm trying to explore mostly in this book. And how do you get out of this demonic circle of hatred and killing? And I don't think this problem in the Middle East will ever be solved by politics or politicians or by governments or by armies. This problem can only be solved by individuals coming together, letting their love overcome hatred, and learning from the ultimate example of love that was given to us by God through his Son, Jesus Christ, and knowing that love alone can cause us as human beings to become better in our own selves, but also to better the society around us. If we can form small circles of friendship between each other, individuals coming to love other individuals and accept them as they are, despite the differences. And that's not just in the Middle East. That's right here in America. Look at the relationships here in America between the different races and religions and so on. Political parties, as you have just said. I mean, the hatred has become so much here between the Republicans and Democrats and conservatives and liberals. Where are we headed here in this country? Are we headed to civil war ourselves? I mean, that might sound extreme, but I don't think it is, looking at our country's situation currently. So if people can form small circles of friendship that can coalesce later on into larger circles of friendships, and eventually have enough people who love and respect each other, that can actually overturn the hatred in their own societies and change the direction of their countries from a direction of war and strife into maybe a direction of society, people in the society building together a better country and building together peace, because peace is not something that comes to you at once. I believe peace is something you build, and it takes individuals to do that. I'm not talking about politicians. I'm talking about us, about each and every individual that lives in that society.
Yeah. Dr. Matouk, as we close out of here, we've discussed a lot here today, but what are you wanting to say to our listening audience before we let you go?
So I am an Arab Christian. And as an Arab, I want the reader to know that not all Arabs are made from the same cloth. Not all Arabs are haters of Jews. Mm-hmm. Not all Arabs want war. But Arabs are willing to listen. Many of us are willing to listen to our Jewish cousins or brothers, because that's what we are. If we are descendants of Ishmael and they are descendants of Isaac, we are cousins. We are first cousins, or half brothers, actually, more than cousins. So we are willing to listen. We want to listen. We want to live in peace with our Jewish brothers. As a Christian, I want to project the love of Christ to my Muslim brothers and my Jewish brothers. And I want them to know that as a Christian, I not only love them, but I am willing to give my life for them, because that's the ultimate expression of love. That's what Jesus told us. Love your God as yourself. Love your neighbor as thyself. Love your God with all your heart, all your power, all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. My Muslim brother, he is my neighbor. My Jewish brother, he is my neighbor. And I do love them. And I want them to know that this love can be shared among all three of us, Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And if we can share this idea together, instead of all this killing and all this horrendous suffering and horrendous, oh my goodness, if you look at what's happening in the Middle East and what had happened, it's hard to take. You cannot look at some of the pictures without really feeling your heart being torn apart. Well, why have all of that when you can have peaceful coexistence, when you can have love, when you can have happiness? We can build together a world, that part of the world, build it into the best part of this entire globe. Why not? That is something that can be achieved if we can come together, accept each other, and listen to each other. Like you said in the very beginning, you talked about conversation, how important it is to have a conversation.
Yeah.
There is no way you can learn about the other person without having a conversation with them. So let's have a conversation, a truthful conversation. Let's listen to each other. That's a great first step. And let's try to love each other and overcome the hatred that has been ingrained in us for centuries and centuries. Let's put it aside. It has no real cause. And that's the most important thing. There is no real cause for the hatred.
Love that. People, listen, that is the best way to take us out. The only thing I'm going to say is you got to pick up this book. It's Amazon. It's Barnes & Noble. It's drmonifmatouk.com. Head on over there. The book is called Sons of Abraham. This is one you need to add to your shelf. And if you take nothing else from this interview, take that. Let's have conversations. Let us talk to one another and actually listen. Man, because I'm telling you, we could have a much brighter tomorrow if that's where we're beginning. You know where to go. Dr. Matouk, this has been a true honor. I really do mean that. An absolute impressive and just a wonderful discussion. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
It's been my pleasure. Benji, what a pleasure it's been to talk to you. I really, really enjoyed talking to you.